This is a poem by the Boston Unitarian poet E. E. Cummings, son of a Unitarian minister. It's called Little Man. Little man in a hurry, full of important worry. Stop. Relax. Wait. Little child who have tried, who have failed, who have cried, lie bravely down. Sleep. Big rain, big snow, big sun, big moon. Enter us. Like many of you, I'll bet, during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, I was feeling pretty cooped up. I longed to escape my dismal Zoom existence. Get outside, get some fresh air, get some exercise, right? So I had this great idea that I'd take advantage of the empty city streets and dust off my old bike and start taking long bike rides again. Well, one day I was coming home from one of those rides when a parked car pulled into the street right in front of me. I braked suddenly, flew over my handlebars, hit the pavement, and broke my arms. Both of them at the same time. So that for a while I was walking around in, those double arm casts that were kind of like this. My pandemic wasn't off to a great start. Looking back on it, I can now see that I learned a lot from that experience. My injuries gave me more compassion and understanding for what it's like to move through the world in a body that doesn't function the way we wished it did or the way it used to. And I came to appreciate just how dependent I am on my hands and my arms and my opposable thumbs to satisfy just about every one of my needs and desires. If I have an itch, I reach around and I scratch it. If I'm hungry, I go to the kitchen and grab some food. If I want to find out what's going on in the world, I pick up my laptop and read about it. When my arms are working fine, I satisfy all these needs and desires with hardly a thought, right? I don't think about scratching the itch, I just do it. But with my arms in those casts, I couldn't do any of those things. And I noticed a curious thing happen. All those wants and needs and desires rumbling about in my head that I'd previously satisfied without a thought, I now became very acutely aware of. And the voice inside me that expressed those needs and wants became louder and more insistent each time their demands were thwarted by my injury. Before long, I was alarmed to realize that there'd always been this needy, grasping, craving part of my brain, my ego, that's constantly nagging at my body. I'm lonely. Pick up the phone. I'm bored. Grab the remote. Right? I'm anxious. Get me some ice cream. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, especially that ice cream part, right? I've since come to understand that these are all ways our ego has of saying to us, basically, I'm in pain. Please make it go away. Now, there's an old saying about prayer They say that really there are only 4 kinds of prayer that human beings have ever offered up to the heavens. 4 archetypal prayers: thanks, oops, gimme, and wow. Those 4: thanks, oops, gimme, and wow. Thanks, of course, is the prayer of gratitude. Oops is confession, right? I'm sorry. Wow is an expression of wonder. And then there's gimme. Gimme is I want, I need, I desire, I crave. When my arms were broken, I was horrified to discover that there's this part of my brain that is always crying out like some demanding toddler, gimme, 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 gimme. Do you ever catch yourself doing that? And here's the rub. When we are consumed by this gimme, this grasping need, if the gimme prayer fills our hearts and minds, then there's not a whole lot of room left over in our hearts for those other prayers, right? For gratitude, for confession, or for wonder. Wow. It's a really tough place spiritually when our hearts are stuck on gimme. So I think it's worth noticing and asking ourselves, which prayers are we making room for in our own hearts? You know, which prayers are our gimmies shoving out, elbowing out? Now, Buddhism, of course, has long cautioned us about our mind's habit of craving and clinging and grasping. The teaching goes that because we human beings experience pain and suffering, we understandably grasp for the things that we hope will alleviate our suffering. Yet it's our very grasping, our attachment, as the Buddhists say, that keeps us locked in that cycle of frustrated desire, that cycle of suffering. And moreover, our attempts to relieve our suffering are often misdirected, aren't they? Focused on the wrong things. I mean, let's face it, ice cream doesn't really alleviate my anxiety, right? It just tastes good. Well, maybe maybe just a little, right? I mean, how many times have we said to ourselves, if only I could have X, then I'd be happy. If only I could be Y, then I'd be fulfilled. Then we attain X or Y or even Z and discover that we are still restless and unsatisfied. Sometimes it feels like we're grasping at straws, right? I looked up that phrase recently, grasping at straws. I didn't know that it came from Sir Thomas More, the 16th century theologian and statesman, the author of Utopia. More observed that a person cast into the sea will grasp at anything to prevent themselves from drowning, will grasp even at things that won't save them, like a straw floating on the surface of the water. This is what we do sometimes, friends, right? We grasp at things that we believe will save us but can't. We grasp at things that we think will make us happy but don't. And you know what? All the while, the internet and our social media feeds, capitalism basically, is laying straws before us out on the surface of the water, just waiting for us to clutch at them, profiting off us as we try to stay afloat. Do you sometimes find yourself grasping at straws? Clinging to things you hope will make you happy, even when deep down you really know that they won't, right? So how do we kind of extract ourselves from this cycle of gimme and grasping? What would it feel like to loosen our grip, open our fist, and instead of struggling against the water, God, just allow ourselves to float for a little while, to be held? What would that feel like? How do we move in that direction? For starters, I think we might try to become more mindful of that voice inside us that's crying, gimme. Let's pay a little attention to it. For a long time, I didn't realize it was there. It took me 2 broken arms to discover it, right? And I don't recommend that approach. A simple mindfulness practice would do just as well. Just quietly noticing the grasping thoughts that pass through our mind, listening to the gimme voices that bubble up, not judging them, just being gentle with them, maybe trying to understand them a little bit, understand where they're coming from, show them a little compassion. You can even try some good-natured humor. You can say to the ice cream, look, I know you're not going to, help my anxiety, but I'll eat you just the same. Right? Right? And then just kind of release them, right? Let them go. Don't try to choke them off or silence them. Just let them go. I find that this kind of takes the edge off my gimme, right? And once I do that, then slowly I can begin to invite in one or more of those other prayers, right? Remember those 4 prayers, thanks, oops, gimme, and wow. Maybe we could consciously make room for gratitude, or be on the lookout for wonder. Even confession can often redirect our minds and hearts away from the demands of the ego and the self and towards an ethic of being in right relation with others. While my arms were healing, I came across the work of the Benedictine monk David Steindl-Rast, who's written some books on gratitude. I've spoken about him before. Steindl-Rast grew up in Nazi Germany and didn't come by gratitude easily. He discovered it in the midst of the difficult circumstances of the Third Reich. And he teaches us that gratitude isn't simply like a response to getting good things in life, right? True gratitude, he teaches, is more of an orientation that we bring to life, no matter the circumstances that come our way. It's an orientation or a discipline that we bring to the world. We can be intentional about it. He says it's not that we have to be grateful for everything. Indeed, we shouldn't be grateful for everything. But he says we can be grateful in every moment if we are intentional about cultivating that gratitude in our lives, right? Steindl-Rast teaches that a consistent orientation toward gratitude or wonder over time can quiet that inner toddler cry of gimme, 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 right? Instead of beginning from a felt place of insufficiency or lack or need, we can live from a place of gratefulness, which he says describes as a sense of great fullness, right? Great fullness, not lack. A sense of life's sufficiency and abundance. It's a kind of trust, a kind of faith. And look, it's not easy. The work of releasing The gimme prayer is a lifelong journey. It's not like those demanding, grasping voices ever go away entirely. Over the last year or so, since my father's cancer diagnosis and death, I found myself contending once again with my impulse to grasp. There have been so many times over the last year when I wanted to reach out and manipulate my father's situation and condition to fix it, to cure it, to make it so he wasn't going to die. I came to understand three things about those feelings. One, that they were an expression of love for my father. Two, that given his diagnosis, they were futile. And three, that by holding tightly to them, I was causing myself more suffering. When I finally quieted them down some, loosened my grip on the situation, didn't try to control it anymore, then I could finally feel a little bit of gratitude. Actually, a lot of gratitude. Instead of fighting Dad's inevitable death, I was able to celebrate with him his life and our love. The hours we spent fishing together in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York, or listening to Red Sox games on the radio. We even got to watch one last Sox game together on my laptop beside his hospice bed, sipping together on a cheap can of dad beer, the only kind he ever drank, God bless him. And true to tradition, the Red Sox lost. In the midst of all, surrounded by the love and support of friends and family, I did experience gratitude. I did feel a great fullness, a sense of being held in love, by love. It's what reminded me of our E.E. Cummings poem from earlier. Little man in a hurry, full of important worry. Stop. Relax. Wait. Little child who have tried, who have failed, who have cried, lie bravely down. Sleep. Big rain, big snow, big sun, big moon. Enter us. Amen.